What's happening, my fellow geeks and geekettes? Welcome to a brand new episode of Chris's Custom Collectibles. Now, in honor of the release of Thor Ragnarok, we are going to be prepping, painting, and displaying a 3D printed Thor hammer. First off, I just want to give a big thank you to Mr. Reg Taylor, who designed this 3D file. He is hosting it on my mini factory, and I will leave the link down below in the video description. Secondly, a massive thank you to Myles for printing all of these pieces out. This was printed on Myles' Mark II Perusia. It's a beautiful little printer that picks up such amazing detail, and I will show you guys close-ups of the original print to where we have gotten to now. Now, you're probably wondering, all these pieces look prepped, ready to go. You skipped that part, but don't worry, I'm going to explain exactly how I got to this stage. So all the pieces were printed in ABS plastic. Now, the brilliant thing about ABS plastic is that you can smooth it down with acetone. Not only can you smooth the pieces down with acetone to get rid of majority of the print lines, you can also stick pieces together, or so-called weld pieces together, using the acetone. So it's just a matter of brushing the acetone over the pieces. Basically, anything that has a lot of surface area that you want to get rid of a mass amount of print lines, acetone is a good way to start before heading on to filler primer. So here are some photos from Reg that he has on the My Mini Factory page of the disassembled print. Now, this is the original grip stem. These are the original 3D printed pieces. They come apart in several different pieces, but I just didn't want to leave it as painting it brown and then a metallic silver for the grip rings. So what I did is I got one of these pieces, stuck it in a plastic cup, made a very quick silicone block mold. I then cast up several copies of this piece and ground it down until the grip rings remain. So instead of using the original pieces, we're going to be covering this with brown vinyl and then attaching the grip rings on like so, after they have been painted a nice metallic silver. It's going to give a nice separation and a bit more depth to the final piece. So after acetoning all the pieces together, smoothing out as much as we can, I then went ahead and used some plastic and fiberglass primer. This is just a clear primer. It pretty much just preps the surface for filler primers, and just helps with the adhesion overall. After that, we went in with some spray putty. This stuff is absolutely amazing. This is $11 for a can from Super Cheap Auto. It's mostly used for auto body repair, but in this case, it's amazing for filling in print lines. I mean, look at that. It just fills in the print lines whilst leaving all this beautiful detail right here. Now, unfortunately, the printer was not able to print out the insignia on the top hammer cap, but that's okay. We can still work with this. So, of course, we have the main stem. It actually came in 3 separate pieces. 1, 2, 3. They have been fused together with acetone, and I also poured some resin inside, so it's pretty much one solid piece as is now. We've got the individual grip rings. We have the main body of the hammer ready to go. This is just a scrap piece of leather that I've got to be measuring and cutting that will be the grip wrap at the end of the handle. Now, originally I was going to be using this leather all over the handle itself, then put the grip rings on, but the leather is way too thick and these grip rings just wouldn't reach all the way around. So an alternative is some brown vinyl, and trust me, this stuff is a lot more easier to work with because it's thinner. It's going to look a lot more flush when we glue it down to the actual handle itself. And of course, we just have a little attachment here that goes into the main body of the hammer, and then the handle just slots in like so. And of course, we're going to be making a Ragnarok themed base to display this beautiful piece. So there's going to be a lot of colors in this base, guys. I'm very excited about lots of neon blues, yellows, purples, everything. So now that all the pieces have been prepped, it's time to add a metallic spray paint to the pieces that have a metallic sheen to them, and for that we're just going to be using a Rust-Oleum metallic aluminium. When it comes to metallic spray paint, you want to be very careful, and less is more, because some areas can build up, and that's when you get those ugly drip marks on a smooth surface. Once the pieces have cured and set, we're then going to be attacking it with some shoe polish for the weathering. This is going to be a really fun build, guys. Very excited about this one. So with that being said, let's get to it. Alright geeks, all 3 pieces have now fully dried. Now, like I said, I can't stress enough, whenever spray painting something that is, say, a chrome or gold finish, leave it for at least 24 hours. That way, when you pick it up, you're not gonna get thumbprints in it in case it hasn't cured properly. But as far as I'm concerned, everything here is fully cured. Now, it's time to start weathering these individual pieces before we add the vinyl wrap and the grip rings and assemble the piece all together. So of course, we're just gonna be weathering it with some black shoe polish, Kiwi black shoe polish. This is the gold standard for me, guys. Instead of dabbing it on with a built-in sponge, we're actually gonna take the cap off and pour some into a little cup. And using this brush, we're just gonna dab it over all 3 pieces and let it set in the sun. We're then gonna get a warm scourer sponge and lightly scour away the excess shoe polish. So what's left is all this beautiful detail with the shoe polish embedded in all the crevices. Oh yeah, shitty commentary time. Now I've just drawn a line all the way down the middle so I can line up the first half of laying down the vinyl. Now usually I'd use Loctite, but I got this super glue from Bunnings Warehouse. It was a lot cheaper and I got 6 packs of this stuff. It was a fraction of the price compared to 1 vial of Loctite. So I'm just gonna do this in sections, buffing it on with a Q-tip bit by bit, just so it assures me that I'm going to have a nice even line, instead of doing it in one hit where your chances of stuffing it up are a lot higher. So after we do the first side, I very tightly wrap it around to the other side, just so it all meets up, it's unified, and it also has that nice tight fit around the body of the handle, as you can see right there. Now, you probably noticed that we've got that ugly little seam line, so I'm just going over that with brown shoe polish that soaks in beautifully to the underside of the vinyl and kind of blends it in. It doesn't disguise it completely, but it still does a good job nonetheless. Now, I did have to cut the grip rings at the back and slot them in, and I did have to cut away some excess on the remainder of the handle apart from the base, and I did actually slide in a piece of excess onto the bottom part, as you can see right there, and that was just glued in place with the same glue as the wrap vinyl. Now I'm just gluing each side of the hand wrap in like so, leaving that for about half an hour just to ensure a quality bond. Alright geeks, with the hammer fully completed and drying, it's now time to move on to the display base. Now, you guys probably recognize these 2 MDF pieces from the mech suit imposter Joker customizing video that I did. These are actually cheap photo frames from Bunnings Warehouse. So we're going for a multi-level platform stand with a rock formation that the hammer is going to be slotted into. Now the inspiration for this actually came from the Marvel exhibition in Brisbane and the way they had Chris Hemsworth's screen used Thor hammer on display. So this is just some styrene foam that is actually meant for cakes and, you know, making structures for cakes. This is from Spotlight, this is from Bunnings. We just got some screw threads also from Bunnings. So this still has to be taken apart, dismantled. This is just to show you guys how it looks all assembled, because we are going to be painting this. The main centerpiece also for the stand will be a CNC Thor Ragnarok logo that Myles is CNCing for me as we speak. It's going to be heat treated so we can shape it to the formation of the photo frame. So the next step is to hack away at this stuff until we have a nice rock formation with a groove in it that the hammer can slot and rest into. After that, we're going to be rendering the entire surface of the foam with Trowel on. You guys have seen me use Trowel on before. I will show you guys visualize what the packaging looks like, it's essentially just a thickened up polyurethane resin for making mother molds, but also for rendering certain objects. So by rendering the foam, it keeps it all intact, all in place, and also makes for a nice rock kind of appearance. Okay, now that the primer on the MDF has set in the sun, we're going to be going over with some gloss seaside paint. This is a nice kind of fluorescent blue that matches the theme of Thor Ragnarok. So this is going to be the main color for the two platform stands that are going to house the hammer. Now before I spray them, I'm also going to be covering the top part of the bolts that are going to be the structure for the stand with a nice metallic red. And the paint we're going to be using for that is Redback brand metallic red. This is usually used for RC cars, remote control cars, for the bodywork, but this actually translates well onto metal. Okay, now that I've allowed the primer to set on the rock formation, I'm actually going to be using this as a base color. So I'm just going over the entire piece with some black shoe polish, and we're not going to let the entire thing cure. We are going to wipe away the excess, so it pretty much just gets into the crevices of the rock formation itself. Then after that, we're just going to be using some student acrylic paint and dry brush on a brown, a white, and once those two layers have dried, we're going to go back in with some watered down shoe polish so it kind of unifies all three colors together, the gray, the brown, the white, and just makes it a bit more subtle and a bit more rock-like. And seriously, that was the paint scheme for this piece. Now this is the Thor Ragnarok plaque that Myles CNC'd for me. This is made from Perspex, so we're just using a heat gun like a paint stripper to form it around the edge of the base. So this took all but 2 minutes to do. Once I let that set, I'm just dabbing on some lime green paint, pretty much reminiscent of the Incredible Hulk. A little throwback to the Incredible Hulk, seeing he does appear a lot in Ragnarok. It's kind of going to give the appearance that the Thor Ragnarok logo has been spray painted on or splattered onto the plaque, as you can see right there. And once that acrylic paint was dried, we just sealed it all up with a nice gloss spray. Now I did encounter one issue while spraying the baby blue paint on the MDF. It did not want to absorb, or it absorbed too much into the MDF on the cut areas. So what I'm going to be doing is going around it with a Model Masters Gold just to make a nice gold trim. I guess you could say the color scheme of the base is very much so like Jeff Goldblum's costume in the film, or from what I've seen in the trailer. Now I'm just letting the plaque dry out in the sun. Once it is done, we're going to be attaching it on the front of the base here. We're going to put some rivets on each corner of the plaque. We're then going to hot glue down the rock formation, and then it's time to call it a day. And there you have it, geeks, just in time for the release of Thor Ragnarok. I had an absolute ball making this piece. I'm really starting to love finishing off 3D prints and prepping them and painting them because they just come up a treat if you put in the hard yards with the work as well as the base. It's simple yet effective. I just want to give a massive thank you to Reg Taylor for designing this file. I will have his link for my mini factory down below, as well as my mate Myles, who always helps me out, who 3D printed the hammer, so a big thank you to him. I will also leave Myles' details down below and you can check out his incredible work on Instagram. He is also open for commissions and he will definitely help you out. So guys, with that being said, I hope you have yourselves a fantastic week. If you are seeing Thor Ragnarok, enjoy. Hope you're well, hope you're happy, be merry, be silly, and until next time, geeks, please always remember, cosplayers do it best.